Hey everyone, how's it going? Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. Welcome to a special edition of the NoDQ panel. No Virtue today, but we have a great crew here to talk about the Royal Rumble weekend, which included NXT Takeover Philadelphia as well as the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. First time we're ever doing 5 people on a panel, but we have good reason for it. We need to have, of course, the man Greg Cherry, who is the expert when it comes to everything Royal Rumble. We also have good old JM, Jeff Meacham, an expert on everything wrestling related. We have the lovely Jexy, who can provide her insight on the Royal Rumble and NXT TakeOver. And we also have somebody who was actually there in Philadelphia for both shows. We have Michael. How's it going, Michael?
It's going great, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I've been trying to get on these for a while and finally got my opportunity. So I feel like this is probably the best one for me to be on, also because, like Greg, I'm a huge Royal Rumble fan, and I just feel like I'm in my wheelhouse here. So I really appreciate you having me on for this.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on. So the main topic I want to discuss today is which show was better. Now, in my opinion, both shows were outstanding, and I think for the first time, maybe ever, both shows were arguably at an equal level. Now, the question is, which show was better if you had to pick one? I did a poll on NoDQ.com, and it was basically 50-50. Actually, last time I checked, thank you, Jeff. Last time I checked, it was literally 50-50 with the poll. So I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts, watching it on the network, seeing it live. Jeff, let's start with you since I know you got a lot to say. Overall, which pay-per-view did you think you enjoyed more?
Well, let me start out by saying what my perspective was coming from, because I literally spent all day Saturday either at a California mission up past Santa Barbara or at my Rocky Horror Cast 30th anniversary. So I did not see TakeOver until Sunday morning. I literally watched it back to back to make sure I had a clear perspective on everything in case we filmed Sunday night. We didn't, thank God. I think that they were neck and neck. Like you said, Aaron, both shows really delivered above and beyond what we thought they would, especially the Royal Rumble, though. I think the Royal Rumble executed everything on point. Every match delivered exactly what we wanted it to deliver. And I think the end of the Royal Rumble, which we'll talk about in a little while, I'm sure, is one of those things where everybody assumed it would, and then their guard all got let down because the person involved was halfway around the world, and there she was. So I think the Rumble delivered better overall, and like I said, above and beyond. But it's a very hard decision to call. I mean, you could ask all 5 of us, and it'd probably be a tie, even though it's 5 people. So,
well, what we should do is we'll see if we have, with 5 people here, we should technically have 3-2. Well,
yeah, I personally believe that Rumble delivered better than TakeOver for the first time, I think, in a long time.
Well, maybe because people had such low expectations for the Rumble. I mean, TakeOver has the reputation. NXT always delivers, and right. I think people were having mixed feelings about the Royal Rumble. Now, Michael, you were at both shows, so I want to ask you about TakeOver and the Royal Rumble. What would you say for the fans in the building? What was the high point and the low point of each show, in your opinion, based on what you saw being there live?
Great question. And I'm pretty sure, so for TakeOver, the high point of that show was definitely the Adam Cole Aleister Black match, as far as crowd reactions go, because it was Adam Cole coming out and just doing, Adam Cole, baby. The place just was on fire for him. And it was nonstop chants the entire night from the very beginning when crowds started to walk in and they saw, Samoa Joe's down there in the takeover panel, and oh my God, here comes Pete Dunne too. Like, there was nonstop great people, great superstars to see. The main event also was a huge production. How Almas and Gargano did in that half-hour match was just amazing, and the fans let them know. I think the lowest point of that match may have been the 1 or 2 botches during the Velveteen Dream and Cassius Ohno match. And I mean, besides those, they were noticeable. The crowd let them hear it. But besides those, I think they really appreciated everything else that everybody did throughout the entire show. And I know you guys couldn't tell watching from TV, but I was sitting facing the hard cam, and the upper levels above where the hard cam were all tarped off. So this crowd was nowhere near sold out. But because it was a smaller crowd, it was a little louder and a little more intimate. So, you could pick up on things a lot more. I think that may have translated, over the production, over the camera. Now, when it comes to the Royal Rumble, I don't think anything was bigger than Shinsuke winning. My view on this pay-per-view was that this was WWE's apology to Philadelphia after what had happened in 2015. And I think that they set it up in such a great way to make the fans go home happy. And it was really appreciative. I mean, the fans, they had a great time. And I think that the lowest point, I don't know if you guys heard it, because I actually haven't watched the Rumble back yet, but during the I think it was number 30 when Ziggler came in, before Ziggler came in, fans were chanting Daniel Bryan. As if it was 2015 again, chanting Daniel Bryan, and he didn't show up. And that may have been the lowest point. But, besides that, it was a smattering of fans. And besides that, like, everyone seemed to really go home happy. Everyone who I talked to was just like, oh, my God, best pay-per-view since 04, which was, the Rumble that Benoit won. And I was at that Rumble, too.
Right.
So it was like, so for me, even going into this Rumble, I kind of knew what to expect because I've been to one before, but it definitely blew my expectations as far as crowd reactions go because we really got everything we wanted.
Yeah, let's talk about the actual men's Rumble match first. Greg, I want to ask you, because you've obviously followed all the Rumbles, where do you rank the men's Royal Rumble from this year in history? Would it be in your top 5? Do you think it was the best since 2004? In my opinion, it was the best one since 04. Your thoughts on the men's Rumble, where you would rank it compared to the other Rumbles?
It would probably be up there. I enjoyed this Rumble quite a bit. Best since 2004. I don't know. 2007 gives it a run for its money too, with the finish with Shawn and Taker. But this one was done very well. It was really interesting to me. I know they're probably not going to go anywhere with this, but Cena and Reigns teaming up on Nakamura and getting a little bit of heel heat. It was like, this is something different. The two veterans. I know Nakamura's a veteran too, but as far as WWE main event longevity, Nakamura doesn't have as much experience as the other two. So that was cool to see. And there were a lot of great surprises. And there was one person who was, I believe, made into a superstar this weekend by appearing on both shows. And that was the NXT champion, Andrade Cien Almas. I believe his stock shot through the roof, like broke through the roof and headed straight to the moon. Almas is a superstar with his match against Gargano and the ridiculous pop that he got as soon as he came in the Rumble at 7.
Right. Now, Michael, how did the crowd react to Almas on both nights? Do you feel like he's a big deal? And what about Velveteen Dream? Because I felt watching on television, that guy seems to be extremely over with the fans. Who would you say, other than Adam Cole, you did mention Adam Cole, how do you feel the crowd reacted to Almas and Velveteen Dream? And do you see those guys as big stars on the main roster eventually?
It sounds so weird for me to say because Cassius Ohno being, a big name from Ring of Honor, right here in Philadelphia and the area, I think he had the worst reaction of anyone on that show, which is really sad because, the guy's amazing, but Velveteen's pop was far beyond what Cassius Ohno had. Everybody loved Almas. Everybody loved Gargano more. But Adam Cole and the rest of Undisputed Era, Fish and O'Reilly, all got huge pops. Black got a huge pop. Velveteen got a very big pop. Even now I'm blanking on her name. Almas's valet got a huge pop when she hit the Hurricane Rana on Gargano. Yeah. Did they? I didn't notice when I watched back on NXT. Did they show War Machine in the crowd?
Yes,
they did show them. Okay, because I know that. Yeah, they showed Ricochet, and he got a giant pop. Not an EC3 pop, but he got a giant pop. Understandably so. But yet, when you're talking about, I guess, pops where Almas got his pop on NXT and he got his pop at the Rumble. His pop on NXT was definitely bigger. Same thing goes for Adam Cole, and I would assume because probably the fans at NXT, all of them obviously know who they are, but some of them at the Rumble may not know who they are if they're not watching NXT. But yeah, they definitely got their better pops on NXT than they did in the Rumble.
Yeah, definitely.
say
Because it's the core NXT fans. But it sounded like
Sure.
even at the Rumble, especially Adam Cole, he got a pretty darn good reaction at the Rumble pay-per-view. Jexy, I want to ask you, since we haven't heard from you yet. So the NXT pay-per-view, some people are saying that the main event was the best NXT main event in the history of NXT. Do you agree with that? Your thoughts on that match overall? And do you think it was better than, say, I mean, I know you love Pete Dunne. Do you think it was better than Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate? Putting you on the spot here.
It was. Those two have so much chemistry between each other, Pete and Tyler Bate, just because they've come up together. So that was kind of a given that it would be that way. But Gargano and Andrade absolutely killed it last night. They killed it. That match was amazing from start to finish. They beat the hell out of each other. And if this is the way that we're kicking off 2018, I really cannot wait to see the way the rest of the year is going to go. It would be hard to see them not get match of the year based off that already.
Yeah, I mean, the big debate is that match versus, I think, the men's Rumble match. But Jeff, of the two Rumble matches, which one do you think was stronger, the men's Royal Rumble match or the women's Royal Rumble match? And again, it might come down to expectations. I think both of them exceeded expectations, but maybe the women's match exceeded even more expectations just because there was the uncertainty of it.
I am going to probably ruffle a few feathers when I say this, especially with my friend Caitlin in Michigan. The men's Rumble match went above and beyond expectations because people were legitimately thinking it was not going to be the best Rumble a great Rumble that it was. It was an amazing Rumble, but a lot of people thought, well, it won't deliver like we think it should, and it did. The women's Rumble, I think, did every single thing right it needed to do except the last 2 minutes of the show. Because Asuka gets the big win, the historical win, the first ever Rumble win, and nobody in that building was looking at Charlotte or Asuka or Alexa. They were all looking at the top of the ramp at Ronda Rousey, which I get. Ronda Rousey is the biggest female athlete star probably of the last 10 years or so, maybe even more. But if they wanted to focus on the women that have been in the WWE and cause this revolution to happen, the fact that everybody was looking at Ronda and not the two champions and the new number one contender, I think is not the way they wanted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better than Ronda actually being in the Rumble and winning the Rumble match.
Right.
So I will say that's an improvement. Greg, you're shaking your head. Your thoughts on Ronda coming out at the end?
See, Jeff and I talked about this a little bit earlier, briefly, and I disagree with him. I think the move with Ronda was done very well, actually, because it gets the mainstream publicity. It gets eyes on the product that might not normally be. It gets people from UFC. It gets people that may not watch UFC on a frequent basis be like, hey, Ronda Rousey's here now. Let's see what she can do. And with the athletic background and stuff and the big name that she is, even in the acting world, she could do very great things for WWE leading into WrestleMania season. I know you're going to interrupt me, Jeff. Don't do it.
I'm not.
But Asuka winning, I don't think it was overshadowed because she had her couple minutes in the sun. And I'm glad they didn't do the decision because I was actually complaining about why are they making the decision tonight? There's still a SmackDown pay-per-view and a Raw pay-per-view before WrestleMania. The titles could change before that. Don't make the decision until you have a solid champion. So I'm glad they didn't make the decision. And Ronda coming out, I liked it personally.
I'm not saying I didn't like it. I just felt that they didn't really give Asuka as big a moment as they could have.
Yeah. Michael, I want to ask you, how did the live crowd react to Ronda coming out there? Or how was the reaction in the building when she came out there?
Oh, the reaction was loud. I'm going to say it was kind of expected, though, to kind of like piggyback on what Jeff said. Like a lot of people were looking at the ramp. Everyone kind of had the idea that Ronda's been trolling everyone for the past couple weeks. So, her reaction was really big. When I was there, I was really hoping that she was going to be number 30, because in my mind, I kind of had a feeling that Stephanie was going to be 29. And I just had this feeling that she was going to be 29 and she would go in and maybe eliminate, I don't know, Sasha or Becky, like some crowd favorite. And then Ronda would come in, and then, she would do the stare, and Ronda would come in, toss her out, and then Ronda would be eliminated by someone else, kind of like, Goldberg fashion, something like that. And that would set up maybe like their co-ed match or their mixed tag match at WrestleMania. So I think to kind of have her come in at the very end of it was a little bit overshadowing when it comes to Asuka, the winner. I mean, but granted, for Asuka, she still came off as, like a tough girl, slapping the hand away, which was great and kept her strong. But I think I would have rather Ronda be in the match than just be like the big player at the end of the match.
Interesting. I liked it because it was basically a cliffhanger, I think, to set up people tuning into Raw and seeing the follow-up to this. So I think it's better to save Ronda wrestling for WrestleMania, build it up rather than have her wrestle as a surprise. That's just how I see it. But I liked her showing up at the end, and I think it was the right decision for the women's match to go on last because of the fact that Ronda Rousey was there. If Ronda was not there, then I definitely would not have put the women's match on last. Jexy, I want to ask your thoughts. Do you think WWE made the right decision putting the women's match on last?
I do, especially with the fact that it was the very first one. They kind of did us a little bit dirty with the Money in the Bank elimination match.
Yes.
So have them made it a little bit more special. To touch on the Ronda Rousey thing a little bit, I'm glad she was not in the match. She has not earned that spot to be able to be into the first one at all, period. Much less come in and win it. I think it was a nice sprinkle on the end of it to have her come out and do a little show off with Asuka, Charlotte, and Alexa. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes, but I'm glad she wasn't actually in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think WWE did it well. Like I said on my live video, I give the show an A rating. I thought this was one of the best Royal Rumble pay-per-views in a long time. Greg, so I want to ask you, I think you did talk about where you would rank the Royal Rumble match, but the pay-per-view as a whole, how would you rank it compared to recent WWE pay-per-views? For me, it was the best pay-per-view since WrestleMania 31. How far back would you go for this Rumble pay-per-view for main roster shows?
That's fair. I put it up there with Great Balls of Fire too,
because that was better.
A surprisingly good pay-per-view. There were weak points though. Both tag team matches disappointed heavily, in my opinion. I don't know what you do with Gable and Benjamin from here. I wouldn't keep them together because they got, for being as great of athletes as they are, they got no reaction last night. And the Usos winning in 2 straight falls, I mean, that pretty much buries any shot that they have at the tag team titles in the future. So I think Benjamin's better off on his own. I think Gable would probably be better off on his own, coming up with something else. But, I mean, what do you do with him from here? And then Jason Jordan, I see the reports that he was hurt, but he sold that shot to the ring post like he got shot in the head. And but maybe they're building a story with that, like Jason Jordan's kind of like a wuss or something.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned,
like, what are you doing?
As I mentioned on the live video, I actually think WWE did a great job taking advantage of Jordan being hurt because they were able to work it into the storyline, and people think he's faking it in the storyline, that he's like you said, a pansy, and he's just exaggerating his injury. Jeff, before I get Michael's thoughts, Jeff, I want to ask you, so the 2 tag matches, what do you think went wrong with them?
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. I honestly don't have a straight answer. I'll just kind of ramble as I can. I just the SmackDown match. I think Greg hit on the thing. How do you have Benjamin and Gable come back from this? They've been bragging and talking nonsense for months and months and months, and they get beat 2 straight. Like, they've lost every chance they've had at the titles so far. How do you have a team that's supposed to be the 2 most athletically gifted tag team competitors on the roster get beat all the time? Like, this does them no favors, and I don't know where they're going to go from there. On the Raw side, I loved the way they booked Jordan's injury into the storyline. It just was so well done, and I think I think, honestly, having Rollins and Jordan as the tag champions is more of, okay, well, Dean's hurt, so let's give Seth something to do here for the next few weeks. But it was a matter of time. The Bar deserves to be tag team champions. They are probably the best tag team that Raw has had in many a moon. And I think they're going to go into WrestleMania strong like they were last night at the Rumble. And I think that they're going to have a very interesting dynamic to play out now that Jordan and Rollins are no longer tag team champions. Are they still going to be coexisting, or are we going to see Seth just lay Jordan out for being such a pansy, as you guys said?
Right. Now, Michael, I want to ask you about the crowd reactions. Now, for the first tag match, that was before the men's Rumble. The crowd was still pretty hot. I don't think there were any excuses. I think they made a mistake doing the 2 straight falls, and I think it hurt Gable and Benjamin. The second match, however, I think WWE did the best they could under the circumstances with that match. Unfortunately, the crowd was just completely wiped out. Is that a safe thing to say, an accurate thing to say, that the crowd was just so drained? From what I heard, people were heading to the bathroom like after that men's Royal Rumble, and it was just a bathroom break match, but there was really nothing I thought that was wrong with the match. But your thoughts on the match and how the crowd was reacting at that point?
Yeah, you're absolutely right about people going to the bathroom. Unfortunately, that was the bathroom break match because, like when you have Nakamura winning a Royal Rumble right before, a lot of people are going to be really exhausted and, want to go to the bathroom or want to go get your beers that I'm sure a lot of people spilled in celebration. So the SmackDown match got a lot better of a crowd reaction until they hit that second fall. And I saw that happen. And I don't know if I guess you guys can tell me, isn't this the second time they've done that with a 2 out of 3 falls match, in a row?
Yeah.
So I thought it was Ziggler. It was Ziggler and Cesaro before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was really strange that they decided to pull the same exact thing, but with a tag match. The match itself was fine. It was a really good match. I mean, the users are pretty much money in the ring. Same thing with Gable and Benjamin. But until that second fall happened, people really liked it up until that point. But yeah, then you have the men's Rumble, and then you went into the Bar and Seth Rollins and Jordan. But I really think that one of the reasons that a lot of people didn't stick around for that is because of Jordan. Nobody's really invested in the guy at all. And, when they're building him up to be, as you guys said, a pansy, he's not going to get the reactions that you want him to get. He's going to get the blasé, we really don't care about this guy. And it shows when people get up and go to the bathroom during it.
Yeah. Now,
which is unfortunate for him because he's a great athlete. He's a fantastic athlete. And I mean, I can't really say that any of his matches are really bad. It's just him as a personality isn't good.
Yeah. And of course, there's the whole argument that he gets crowd reactions, but again, people were going to the bathroom when his match was up. Now, the question is, would it have been a different circumstance if, say, like the Universal title match was right after the men's Royal Rumble, where people have been leaving for the bathroom for that? So that, who knows? I mean, it's really hard to say. But we haven't talked about the triple threat, the Universal title match, which, Michael, on television, it sounded like that match had a lack of heat, too, even though it was afterwards, you would think some people were back from the bathroom or whatever. So what do you think happened with that match? Was it just the crowd was still tired, or was the match just not that good?
It in my opinion, it just wasn't that good. It didn't deliver as well as, let's say, a Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Seth Rollins triple threat match delivered. The unfortunate thing with this, in my opinion, is that I don't think it's a good idea to have Brock Lesnar be in a triple threat match where he is the small guy. And he's the small guy when it comes up to Strowman and Kane. And when Lesnar's the small guy, that means that he's the best worker, which means that the other 2 guys aren't good. Well, I mean, not to say that they're not good workers, but it's just tough to have a really big guy work well and get good crowd reactions. And I think that definitely translated to the audience because, I mean, there wasn't really any amazing high spots like I guess you could have gotten out of like Seth Rollins. Let's say. I mean, the biggest highlight really of the match was Lesnar flipping a couple tables, and I mean, they give that for free on Raw all the time. Exactly. So I don't think that the fans really appreciated the match as much as WWE wanted them to.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
So you think like if the circumstances were different, maybe the crowd would have reacted different, or do you think they would have been the same where they would have been indifferent? I mean, I felt like going in, I was indifferent to the match personally. I really didn't care. I felt like, okay, Kane's only there to take the fall, and I thought it was okay. I think if it was just one-on-one Strowman versus Lesnar, and they did all the big rampage moments with them going into tables and all that crazy stuff, I think it would have been a stronger match personally. I mean, Jexy, what were your thoughts on the match? What would you have done differently, if anything?
Can I just say something real quick with
Sure.
Jason Jordan and
Yes.
Seth Rollins?
Go for it.
I think to have booked that just a little bit better, to play up on that injury, because he was out for so long that it's like it was just dragging on with him just sitting there being there. I think it would have made a little bit more sense to actually have him as a Rumble entrant, get his ass absolutely beat, so that way it made more sense why he was out for so long, because he had already been hurt. Now he's hurt again. Now he's recovering. But for Strowman Lesnar, it was about what I would expect it to be. You know, slam, toss, roar, crash, whatever. Braun falling sideways through the table was pretty funny, though. Commentators, you know, they covered for him well on that. I think it was smart to protect Braun with the win, but I'm so over Lesnar. I am. I say this every time we talk about his matches. I think Strowman needs to just get the belt and move on with it.
Well, that's a very valid point. Now, another thing I wanted to discuss is the ordering of the matches, if anything could have been done differently. In my opinion, I think, Jexy, you and I actually talked about this yesterday. Maybe they should have put the Rumble match for the men first and then had the women's match close the show. There's more separation between the two Rumble matches because it did feel like such a long show. As much as I enjoyed this Royal Rumble, it's just such a long show. 6 hours to be watching wrestling is a lot. And with NXT, it's only 2 hours. It's a lot easier to get through. Jeff, your thoughts on the ordering of the show, if there's anything you would have done differently?
I would have absolutely put the men's Rumble match first, mainly because, like Jexy said, the fact that they had the tag title match right after the men's Rumble and they didn't play up Jordan's injury more because he wasn't in the Rumble, I think that if they had the men's Rumble match first and Jordan was hurt in that match, it could have been a build over the show. Like, they would have been in the training room, like, are you going to be able to go? You'll be able to go. Like, and Jason Jordan could have been like, yeah, I'm going to go. I got this. And like totally like look aside, like, I'm not going to go out there. And then it would have been a great build to that. I think everything was laid out perfectly except for the fact that the Rumble match was not first. The men's Rumble match was not first. I think it would have been a great way to bookend the show. You had the two Rumble matches at the beginning. I thought they were going to go first. And when they sit on TakeOver, that the title match was starting the Rumble, I went, okay. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. It was a great way to start the show, don't get me wrong, because those three guys just tore the house down right away. So it was really well done, but I think the men's Rumble being first would have given people a chance to go, you know, take a leak, for lack of a better term, during one of the other matches instead of during the tag title match.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was just weird, though, that the WWE title match was first. It almost felt like an afterthought. It felt like the WWE title was, you know, the curtain jerker, and, you know, it was being overshadowed by all the other matches except for the tag matches.
I was going to say, I think every match, you know, on last night was definitely kind of like a filler. Like, okay, we've got two 1 hour matches. What can we throw in there? Type thing. It's like, you know, the fact that AJ Styles in a throwaway match for the title, it's like that just boggles my mind. And you know, at the end of the day, like you said, Aaron, the Triple Threat Universal title match did not deliver. Like, I think it was supposed to be this big, monstrous, like you said, the word rampage is a great buzzword for that, because it's supposed to be big rampage, smash everything. And it was like, okay, so Brock retained and Strowman didn't take the fall, which y'all expected, but we got here kind of in a weird way.
Yeah, I agree on that.
I still maintain, I think Aaron will agree with me because you do the website. They're building toward Lesnar versus Reigns again at WrestleMania. So they're not going to have Strowman win the championship unless they totally throw us a curveball and have Strowman defend against Reigns, and Reigns finally gets the big win over Strowman he's been seeking.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Greg, your thoughts on the card, if anything could have been done differently with the order, anything you would have done differently?
You know, you guys both touched on it. The men's Rumble should have been first. And I was saying this a few days before because the men's Rumble match was built up so poorly in comparison to all the other matches. It's like, you might as well just start the show off with it. Good thing they didn't, because, I mean, the men's Rumble was fantastic. So, it, you know, goes to show that sometimes a lack of build isn't a bad thing. But
hence AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar.
Exactly. I mean, they changed that. I was going to say Benoit and Angle from Mania 17.
Sure.
but I don't know. I wouldn't have booked the triple threat match for the Universal title. I probably wouldn't even have Brock on the show if that's the kind of match he was going to put out. It's like
really valid point there. And I was going to
Yeah.
say maybe they could have kept the WWE title match off the pay-per-view too and just not have a WWE title match. You have the Royal Rumble matches and then maybe just throw in a couple of mid-card matches as the buffer matches between the big matches rather than just – I think they just had too much on this show. It's 6 hours. It's just so long. And people are bound to get worn out and tired. But still, I thought it was a great show overall. We got a lot of cool surprises. Michael, I want to ask you about the surprises on the show.
Yeah.
Who got the biggest pop of the surprises other than the NXT guys, like the people from the past, like both the men's and women's match? We had Hurricane Helms come out. We had Rey Mysterio come back. And then we had all the women from the past. Tori Wilson, on TV, it sounded like she got the biggest pop. And she looks fantastic, I got to say. At her age, a lot of them look
big up to Tori.
a lot of them look better than they did the last time we saw them. So who got the biggest pop of the past stars that came back?
I think that when it comes for the Women's Rumble, I actually think the biggest pop was Lita's. And I think that Lita got the biggest pop because I think that WWE did a great thing with the Rumble in terms of how they laid it out. And in a lot of past Rumbles, everyone knows that the surprise is number 3. And there wasn't a surprise at number 3. Lita was 5. So, I mean, they kind of got away from that. And they spread out all the surprises really well. So I think Lita being the first surprise and being one of the biggest names in women's wrestling history definitely got the biggest pop. And I think that Trish also got a really big pop because I believe that people forgot she was going to be in it. Because it kind of got to the point where, like, oh, now we're at number 30. Everyone's expecting Ronda Rousey.
Right.
And it's Trish that showed up. And, there was no mention about Trish at all the entire show. So I think that everyone was like, oh, my God, Trish. Like, oh, yeah, Trish is here. And I think that she definitely got a big reaction because of that. Jackie got a really big reaction. A lot of people in Philadelphia were happy to see Jackie. And she, I mean, for being like how old that she is, she did very well, I think, in my eyes, in terms of like a live performance. She did really well. Beth Phoenix got a huge pop.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really nice. It was really cool. The fans loved the whole Natty Beth Phoenix embrace and then Natty tossing her. They loved it. It was awesome.
How did the crowd react to the Bella Twins? Because it sounded like at first they got a good reaction, but then the crowd was like, I don't know. How did the crowd feel about them coming back?
Not well. I mean, like I don't know. The Bella Twins are the Bella Twins. I don't really think the crowds really, at least East Coast crowds, really enjoy the Bella Twins. I will say, though, that Brie got a better reaction than Nikki did. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Brie is married to Daniel and, Nikki is married to John.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of Daniel Bryan chants when Brie came out, but when Nikki came out, it was a lot of Cena sucks chants, which was hysterical.
Yeah, and I noticed when Michelle McCool came out, they were doing the Undertaker chant. And there's somebody else that came out. They were chanting for the husband. I forgot the person offhand, but it was pretty interesting that they were chanting for the husbands or significant others of the guys coming out. Jex, I want to ask you about the women's Rumble match. You and I had texted about this. So what did you think were the highlights and the low points of this women's Rumble match? And do you think it was a success overall?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely successful. You have 30 women who have never been in a Rumble before. So the expectation of that was high and low. As we had talked about, I had told you directly, I felt that it would probably be a little bit sloppy. Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't. It was high points. Naomi pulling herself in with a chair was tremendous. Jackie killed it. Molly absolutely killed it. Trish killed it. It was different to see Sasha continuously interrupting people getting thrown out of the ring. I really wasn't, and the commentators said the same thing. It didn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
Right.
Asuka winning, amazing, absolutely amazing. When we did the review or predictions, I didn't think that they would give it to her. Super stoked that they did. But overall, I think it definitely held its own, and they all did really, really, really well.
Absolutely. I was satisfied too about Asuka. I thought after Raw, because she was booked so strongly on Raw, I thought, okay, maybe there's going to be a swerve here, something's going to happen. But I was happy she won. I was happy Nakamura won. I'm glad WWE gave the fans what they wanted with the Royal Rumble. And as great as NXT TakeOver was, I still think like the Rumble, because it's the Rumble and it's something we're going to remember 20 years from now. I think when you look back in history, people are going to remember the Royal Rumble pay-per-view more. But NXT, I mean, it's very arguable which match was the best match of the weekend between probably the men's Royal Rumble match and the main event, the NXT Championship match. Matthew, I want to ask you, so watching it live, watching that main event match live, the crowd was so into Johnny Gargano, and it felt like watching it, he should have won the title based on how the crowd was reacting and how the match was going along. It felt like when he lost, the air was just sucked out of the building. Is that accurate to say that?
No, the air wasn't sucked out. A lot of people were still chanting for Johnny. There was a lot of "Thank you, Candace" chants going on. I don't think anyone was really disappointed. I think a lot of people, especially me, I thought going into it that Almas was going to win. And as the match went on, I'm like, oh my gosh, man, Johnny is really like killing it here. He could get it. There was so many near falls during the match that, I think by like the 25-minute mark, a lot of people were just like, oh my God, anything could happen now. He could totally win this. Like, look how well of a performance he's putting on. Why wouldn't they give him the title? And a lot of people were thinking, like maybe Ciampa will come out and screw him, or maybe Gargano will win it, and then Ciampa will come out and attack Gargano afterwards and set up a title match between them for the future. And I think that's actually one thing that I think the match accomplished. When you look at this match on paper, it's like, okay, you have Gargano and you have Almas, two like relatively small guys. And when you compare it to like, let's say, a Finn Balor Samoa Joe main event, there's definitely a name value when you have your Samoa Joes and your Finn Balors. But I think this match was definitely able to overcome a glass ceiling that a lot of people put on it, because the two guys put on such a fantastic performance. And like you said, it's probably the best, if not one of the best NXT title matches that has ever happened on a takeover. And I think that with that in mind, you may see more smaller guys like Gargano and Ciampa or Roddy in more title opportunities and more title pictures because of that. Because these guys they went above and beyond, I think, anybody's expectation, which is great.
Yeah, and I thought it was really cool that Candace got to.
Sorry.
You just
lost
wipe out. I thought it was really cool that Candace got involved and got to shine, and I think everybody looked really strong on the show. I mean, it's hard to really find any flaws in the NXT Takeover show, when again, being 2 hours, that's going to give it an advantage over the Rumble pay-per-view. Jeff, did you think there were any flaws with this NXT show? Anything that you could be critical of? Because I know you're a big NXT guy.
I'm an NXT guy. I think the only thing that could have been just a little bit better is having Gargano not lose clean. Like, I would have had Ciampa screw him outright. Like, I would not have had Ciampa come out at the very, very end like he did in Chicago and just obliterate him. I would have had him come down and cost him the title and set up this big, huge grudge match going into New Orleans. I would have had that set up there. Yes, they're going to fight in New Orleans. It's going to happen. We know that's for sure because Ciampa's ready to go. It looks like. So I think the fact that they built that without Ciampa. I love that Gargano kept fighting and fighting and fighting, but I think, like Michael said, with the way they built that, he should have won the title. The fact that he lost clean and then got beat up by Ciampa, got smacked by Ciampa, kind of didn't really correlate to me. I thought Ciampa should have outright just screwed him out of the title.
Right, and Michael, you didn't see. Yeah. Did you go back and watch it on the network, or you only watched it?
Yeah, I did. No, I went back and watched TakeOver. I haven't gone back and watched the Rumble yet.
Okay, so at the end, they literally recreated the same exact ending from the Chicago show, where they even put the end credit. They put the end credit on the screen to make you think it's going off the air, and then I thought it was a little lame that they just repeated the same exact thing. So In my opinion,
Sure.
I think Gargano should have won the title, but it is what it is. Maybe they got something. You know, some would argue that Gargano and Ciampa, they don't need to have a title. It's a grudge match. They don't need a title, and Almas needs
Sure.
it more. And maybe I mean, who's going to be next for Almas at this point? Who's going to be his next challenger? Greg, any thoughts?
Probably
on this?
Alistair. I'm
Aleister
sorry.
Black
Sorry to
or
interrupt you.
EC3.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, that was my guess. Yeah, that was my guess. The thing, actually, the finish of the title match wasn't my biggest problem. I think it made Almas look like a legitimate star by beating Gargano in such a fantastic match. And like I said, Almas was made this weekend. Like, this was his weekend to shine, and he took the ball and freaking ran. So if you would have told me that Andrade Cien Almas would be as big of a star coming out of this weekend as he was, if you would have told me that last year, I probably would have laughed in your face, because I was like,
no shot.
Him? Okay. But Zelina Vega, like him and Zelina Vega as a pairing, absolutely fantastic. I mean, they hit the nail on the head with that one. I forgot the question.
It's totally all right. At this point, I want to have everybody make their pick. Which show, if they had to pick one, which one they're going to go with. Now, who am I going to put on the hot seat first? Does anybody want to volunteer to be in the hot seat and answer first? Jeff? And any final thoughts? Anything we haven't covered yet? Any thoughts you had on either show you want to get out there before you give your final thoughts?
Well, it's funny that Greg said if you asked him a year ago about Almas. I think if you asked him a month ago, like, honestly,
yeah,
like, Almas has been NXT champion for a little bit. Don't get me wrong, but if you told me as early as the beginning of this month that Almas was going to be the huge superstar he was coming out of Rumble weekend, I would have laughed in your face then. Amazing weekend for Almas. Better show. I gotta go with what I said at the very beginning of this panel. The fact that the Rumble went above and beyond expectations. NXT, it's almost like we expect it to be the best show you've ever seen. And it was. It was a very, very good 2 hours plus. It was an awesome show. The Rumble, I don't remember who said the Rumble match was so poorly built. I think it was Greg said the match was so poorly built up. Like, we didn't expect anything out of that, and it was an amazing freaking Rumble match. So I think the pay-per-view itself, yes, it was laid out a little bit splotchy, but I think the execution of the pay-per-view was much better than we expected. So I think the Rumble was a better show in that respect.
All right. Michael, let's go with you now. Since you were there live, which show did you enjoy better? If you had to pick one, which would you go with? And do you think there was any difference between the live experience? Did you watch the Rumble back?
I haven't watched that yet.
Okay, so,
I haven't watched it back
so
yet.
you might not be able to give a proper analysis on this, but just watching it live, if you had to pick one, if you could go to one of those shows a second time, which one would you go to?
So it's such a tough question because I said before, this was my second Rumble in Philly. I was at the 04 one with Benoit, but this was my first takeover. So I didn't have an expectation for NXT. My only expectation was like, oh, I hope it's good like all the other ones. So when it comes to a live perspective, when you take into account audience reactions, I think NXT was the better show in that respect because I think the crowd was so much more hot for everything that was going on for NXT than it was for the Rumble. I'm basing that a lot on the fact that NXT was a wrestling show. It was a wrestling show. The Rumble was a sports entertainment show, which is fine. That's not a problem at all. And I think also I'm also going to take into account from a live perspective the pre-NXT matches that they taped for Wednesday. Because I don't know if you guys are aware of what matches were on there, but there was one match on there that was a phenomenal match, and it'll be really good when it's shown on Wednesday. I'm not going to spoil it if you guys don't know what it is.
We don't have to give us the result. You could say the match.
Okay. Well, the match is Tyler Bate versus Roderick Strong, and the winner getting a shot at Pete Dunne's United Kingdom Championship.
There you go. Yeah.
And the match was, without giving you a spoiler, the match was really good. So when you take that into account, I think that at wrestling-wise, the Takeover show was better. When it comes to the Rumble, though, when people think this weekend, they're going to remember the Rumble. It was a historic event. Both Rumble matches were really good. I do think the men's was a little bit better than the women's, but I still love the women's regardless. It was still a really, really great match. I think that all of the women in there, with the exception of Kelly, all did really well. Other than that, though, I think I'm going to pick the Rumble, though, as my favorite. I'm going to base that off of the fact that I'm from Philly. I'm a Philly guy. And as I said in the beginning, I think that this was WWE's apology to the Philadelphia fans. And on behalf of the Philadelphia fans, I will say apology accepted, because I thought it was a fantastic show.
Excellent. All right, Greg.
Yeah, mine is the Rumble. I'll go with the Rumble.
Greg, it's your turn. Go ahead.
I might go a different way with this, and this is going to be surprising because the Rumble is my event, but I think I have to give the edge to TakeOver for this one.
Wow.
And the reason I say that is not because of the Rumble matches, because both of them were fantastic. The WWE title match was great. The tag team matches and the Universal title brought the overall show down for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, whether Ronda was there or not, like, didn't really have any bearing on the final rating. So I give the edge to TakeOver just for the overall show. I enjoyed the Rumble more, but I think TakeOver was a better show.
If you're just comparing the entire pay-per-views,
yes.
Again, it's about the 2-hour thing. And see, sometimes, like, if there's a pay-per-view and they have, like, 2 great matches, like SummerSlam 2013, you had John Cena and Daniel Bryan and CM Punk and Brock Lesnar. Both of those matches were fantastic, but everything else was just, okay. But because the 2 matches really delivered, I think that was one of the great SummerSlam pay-per-views in WWE history. So I feel the same way about the Rumble. Like, the Rumble matches really made the show, and everything else is kind of, it doesn't really matter as much. Jexy, let's get your thoughts on the 2 shows, and if you had to pick one, which would you go with?
Sure. They were both very solid shows. NXT, match for match, every single one of them was on fire. Every single one of them was on point, except for Velveteen and Cassius Ohno.
Yeah.
It was awkward at times. I wondered if they were actually shooting on each other. I felt like I was waiting for somebody to just get hurt. It was awkward. But Ember Moon, Shayna Baszler, incredible. Love it. Love Shayna. Enough can't be said about Adam Cole and Aleister Black. It was like ECW coming back. It was incredible.
Yeah. That match, you're absolutely right, Jexy. That match was absolutely incredible, and the crowd was completely on fire for that. I actually have something to say in regards to what you said about the Cassius Ohno Velveteen Dream match. I think the reason that match didn't do so well is because they announced that, like, the day. Didn't they announce that the day of the show?
A couple days before, I think.
Was it a couple days before?
I think so. It was sometime after our predictions video, which is normally when we announce the 5th match.
Yeah.
So, but that by itself was just a little bit awkward. The Rumble itself, being the Royal Rumble, of course, it's a prestigious pay-per-view. But again, match for match, kind of like Greg said, the Rumble was good. The tag matches were not good. And the Universal title match was not good. As far as having the first ever women's Rumble, that's going to hold its own as far as history by itself. But if I had to give it to one, I would have to say NXT. When I walked away, or I shouldn't say walked away, but when that show was over, I didn't even feel like I had just watched a WWE show. It just felt like an entirely different promotion all in itself. Excuse me. It was amazing.
It does feel very different. I have to say they do feel like 2 different shows. So I guess I'm the tiebreaker then, because Jexy, you went with NXT, and Greg, you went with NXT as well, which surprises me because you're the Rumble guy.
I know, but...
So as I mentioned earlier, I did talk about the crowd reactions. I didn't have a problem with the Raw Tag Team title match with Jason Jordan. He was injured. They had to come up with something. Jexy, you did bring up Jordan coming out for the Rumble. The problem is he was hurt, so he couldn't really take any physical punishment. I think what they did was the best thing they could have done under the circumstances. The crowd heat hurt that match. I think the storytelling was fine. The Universal title match, I think, was what the No Mercy match needed to be between Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. Unfortunately, you had Kane involved, and that hurt it a little bit. But I think all in all, they had about the best possible match they could have had. The only match where I think they really dropped the ball on was the SmackDown Tag Team title match. Other than that, I thought everything was very solid. Even the AJ Styles WWE title match, it was the opening match, it wasn't anything special, but I did like the storyline with Sami Zayn, like reaching for the tag, and he actually didn't tag Owens completely, so they used that as their excuse. I liked it. I thought that was well done. So overall, I think there were very few mishaps with the Royal Rumble. So because of that, with a 6-hour show, there's so many things that can go wrong with a 6-hour show. Overall, I think there were far more hits than misses. I think when you go 20 years from now, you look back at these two shows, as great as NXT was, are people going to be talking about this 20 years from now? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I think the Rumble, the strength of the two Rumble matches, I think people will remember 20 years from now. So because of that, I got to go with the Rumble and give the victory to the Royal Rumble. So there you go. I think we pretty much covered anything. Raise of hand. Anybody else want to add anything about either show, or we set our piece here?
I was actually going to say one thing that I actually enjoyed about the layout of the Rumble. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like looking back at older Rumbles, I always appreciated that when you have like a singles match or a tag match, that those wrestlers don't go into the Rumble. Like the Rumble is always filled with just other guys, so you're not doubling up on the same talent. I thought that they really did a good job of not doing that this year. I mean, there were some exceptions, your Sheamus, Cesaro, and Rollins, but like I expected Bobby Roode and Mojo Rawley and maybe a Cruiserweight or 3 to be in there. Yeah, Pete Dunne. Yeah, well, I mean, I was actually hoping Pete Dunne was going to show up on NXT outside of the predictions video. It was cool to see him call out Brock Lesnar, but other than that, yeah, I would have loved to see Pete Dunne in the Rumble. I totally agree with you there, Jaxie. But that was something that I appreciated. I thought the layout of these two Rumbles was the best in years. And the finish with Shinsuke and with Roman, to me, it kind of felt like the finish with Austin and Kane from 01, where like you kind of like, oh man, I really hope Austin's going to win this. They could go some other direction, but and he did it, and the crowd blew up, and it was almost the exact same thing with Nakamura winning, and it was just such a fantastic way to send everyone home happy. And yeah, final thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that we have to argue, and it's this close, which show is better, I mean, that just goes to show that it was really a very successful weekend for WWE and gives us some hope for 2018 that maybe the momentum will continue. Wrestling seems to be doing really well. New Japan had a successful show. They just sold out Long Beach, 5,000-seat arena. So wrestling's hot right now, to some degree, and we'll see if the momentum can keep going. We'll wrap it up for the video now. Thank you all for being on. Thank you to everyone for watching on YouTube and on NoDQ.com. So let's go ahead and get the plugs out. Jexie, let's start with you.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JexieRocks. Come join us on Facebook. Get on the NoDQ forums. Troll with us. Trouble. Mess with Vito. Pick up a NoDQ shirt, ProWrestlingTees.com. Good stuff.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're starting to get involved in the forums. Jeff isn't going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Jeff is like, hell no, I'm not getting involved with that crap. Jeff, your plugs.
Okay. Twitter, of course, _ Jeff Meacham, as well as Instagram. Yeah, I've done the forums many times over the years. I try real hard to not go in there anymore because it is a Shark Tank, and I'm not getting up in that. Bug Aaron about making these for everybody because these are awesome. I love these beanies. They're fantastic.
We are.
And Aaron, I noticed you're wearing your beanie. Are you covering your bet
you want to see
layout thing, or
you want to see?
Oh,
I want to see. I want to see the shaved head.
Did we do some stuff?
We did. Before you do it, Aaron, here's the thing. Let's go, Jeff Meacham. Aaron said if Nakamura won, he would shave his head and trim the beard.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the bet be fulfilled. Come on,
Well,
Aaron.
okay, so here's the deal. I did not know this. Apparently, most barbershops are not open on Mondays. I thought I went to a couple of places, and they were all closed. And I looked up online.
True.
Apparently, because barbershops get their main business on Saturday, so a lot of barbers take Monday off because Monday's usually the slowest day. They are going to be open tomorrow, though, so unfortunately, I still have hair, as you can see.
Oh, no.
Not much of it, but...
It was funny. The last time Aaron made the hair bet, my barber's open Monday, so we both got it done. So.
Yeah.
Nah.
I'm going to do it. I'm living up to the
Okay.
bet. Greg, your plugs.
You can follow me on Twitter at PA Sensation. You can watch Wrestling Trivia Challenge and ridicule me for all of my questions because apparently I can't ask anything right.
But Greg, this week's match, the rubber match, is going to be something fun to do. I think it's going to be fun to take.
Well, I hope so. I hope people appreciate the match that's going to happen, the rubber match between the two of you. I think it's going to be a barn burner, and I
do for sure.
I hope people appreciate the rest of the season. I know I've been asking a ton of Pittsburgh questions. I'll try and stray away from that. And see what I can do. And as far as the scoreboard goes, I don't control that. I don't do post-production, so leave me alone.
Yeah, that's my department, and I have my reasons. But anyways, Michael, let's go ahead and get your plugs. Thank you so much for being our guest today and giving your thoughts, being there for both shows. Your plugs.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate all you guys having me on. I've been trying to get on this for a while, and I finally got my opportunity, so I wanted to make the most of it. You can follow me on Twitter at OnlyFNShow. You can follow me on Instagram at marmstrong0804. Just personal channels if you want to see what I'm up to and whatnot. Again, guys, thank you so much for having me on. And before we sign off, I just want to say, Jeff, congratulations on getting your title back on NoDQ Wrestling Trivia Challenge. But I'm now going to formally throw my name into the ring. So So I would love to eventually wax wrestling wits with you on live screen. And you know what? I'm just going to say there's a new PA sensation in town. So line me up.
Hold on. You got to win the title first before you can be the sensation. I've been the sensation for 12 years.
I'll tell you what, Mike.
I'm taking the opportunity to put myself on live TV and have myself shoot right to the top of the line.
If by some grace of God or whatnot, I actually retain the championship rubber match this weekend, Aaron, Greg, make it happen. Put him on the show. Hell with it.
We'll make that well, Michael, we'll have you one way or another because it's the rubber match. So if Jeff loses, he's out of the running. So you could be the next contender if you want to be on. We'll get you on.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's been a great month for Philadelphia. I just want to keep this winning going.
Look at this guy, dude. This guy's got nuts. I like it.
Say, as long as the Eagles win on Sunday, that's fine.
Listen, I'm not going to complain about championships with a Pittsburgh guy, okay?
It's funny to hear a Pittsburgh guy cheer for Philadelphia, but nobody wants the freaking Patriots to win. So there you go.
True that, sir.
Hush.
And Dylan, where's Dylan? Bring Dylan in here as we sign off.
Dylan, come here for a second. Come here.
I told him he could be on. We'll let him on for the end.
We did. All right, come here.
Let Dylan sit in your spot. Have him sit.
Okay, hang on.
Dylan, you're on the NoDQ panel. Did you watch the Royal Rumble?
Bubba, you're on the air.
Yeah.
Move yourself. Yeah. Did you watch, Dylan? Did you watch the Royal Rumble?
Look, hang on a second. We can't hear you, Aaron. Hang on.
That's not good.
What happened?
We can't hear you.
Oh no. Dylan, can you hear me?
No, leave it. Oh, it's not working.
Oh crap.
Are we on? There we go. We're on. We're good.
Dylan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Did you watch the Royal Rumble?
Yes.
What was your favorite part of the Royal Rumble?
Ronda Rousey coming out.
There you go. That is why WWE did it. For all you complaining, the young fan, WWE is trying to recruit the young fans to become lifelong fans, grow up and have their kids become wrestling fans. That is why, right there, unless Jeff put him up to that, which, knowing Jeff, anything's possible.
No, I did not.
Okay. I believe Dylan. So Dylan said Ronda Rousey was his favorite part, and that's exactly why WWE did the right thing and why the Royal Rumble was the better pay-per-view of the weekend. So there you go. Dylan, you're going to be a future superstar here on NoDQ.com, maybe a future wrestling trivia champion. You know, sometimes you got to learn from the master to get that good, and eventually the young line will beat the old line. We'll see what happens. But anyways, that'll wrap it up for this edition. Look at Jeff. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the NoDQ panel. We will see you guys next time.